Rain poured down heavily on the quiet suburban street. Most windows were shut, lights dimmed, and people hurried into the warmth of their homes. But outside, under a broken umbrella, stood a little girl no older than 7. Her schoolbag was soaked, her shoes splashed in muddy water, and her tiny hands trembled as she stared at the tall iron gates of the mansion next door. Inside that mansion lived Alexander Grant, one of the wealthiest and most feared CEOs in the city. Known for his ruthless business deals, sharp tongue, and cold personality, people whispered that Mr. Grant had no heart. Employees feared him, neighbors avoided him, and his house remained as silent and unwelcoming as he was. The little girl, however, didn't seem to care about his reputation. She stood there bravely, clutching her wet backpack, and when she saw the tall man step out with his briefcase, she blurted out, "Will you walk me to school?" Alexander stopped mid-step, utterly stunned. He blinked at her like she had asked him to buy her the moon. "What?" His deep voice was sharp, impatient. "Why on earth would I do that?" The girl bit her lip, her big brown eyes shining with both fear and determination. "Because, you live next door. And my mom works 2 jobs. She can't walk me. Everyone else has someone to take them, and I don't." Alexander let out a low, humorless laugh. "Kid, I don't do school runs. I don't do kids at all." She nodded slowly, disappointment flooding her small face. But instead of crying, she whispered softly, "I just thought maybe you could be my friend." Then she turned, dragging her heavy bag as she walked alone through the rain. For reasons he couldn't explain, Alexander froze in place, her words echoing in his ears, "Friend." Something inside his chest stirred, a memory, a wound, something he had buried deep long ago. The next morning, Alexander found himself glancing out his window. There she was again, standing in her neat but slightly worn uniform, struggling to adjust her too big backpack. She didn't look at his house this time, she just started walking by herself. Something gnawed at him. Against all logic, he found himself muttering, "This is ridiculous," before slamming his coat over his shoulders and striding outside. "Hey, kid," he called. She turned, wide-eyed. "I'm going your way. Don't make me regret this." Her face lit up like sunshine breaking through clouds. Without hesitation, she skipped to his side. "Thank you, Mr. Neighbor." Alexander groaned. "It's Mr. Grant. Remember that." But the little girl giggled. "Okay, Mr. Grumpy." And for the first time in years, he didn't correct someone. Days turned into weeks. What started as a one-time walk became a routine. Alexander hated to admit it, but he found himself waiting at the gate each morning, pretending it was coincidence. The girl, whose name he learned was Emma, chattered endlessly about her teachers, friends, and dreams. "I want to be a doctor," she told him. Rain poured heavily as little Emma, only 7 years old, stood outside her neighbor's mansion, her small backpack soaked and her shoes covered in mud. Inside lived Alexander Grant, the grumpy CEO millionaire feared by everyone in town for his cold heart and ruthless nature. When he stepped out, briefcase in hand, Emma bravely looked up and asked, "Will you walk me to school?" Shocked, Alexander brushed her off, claiming he had no time for kids. But her soft reply, "I just thought maybe you could be my friend," stayed with him all day. The next morning, against his own logic, he found himself walking beside her. What started as annoyance soon became routine, and Emma's laughter slowly chipped away at his icy walls. She told him about her dreams, her hard-working mother, and her simple joys, reminding him of the childhood he had buried deep within. For the first time in years, the feared CEO felt something stir in his empty heart. The turning point came when Emma fell sick, and Alexander, who once claimed to care about nothing, rushed to get her medicine, groceries, and comfort. From that day forward, he became more than just her neighbor. He walked her to school daily, quietly paid for her supplies, and even supported her mother without asking for thanks. In Emma's innocent trust, he found the family he thought he'd never deserve. One morning at the school gate, she asked timidly, "Will you ever stop walking me?" Kneeling down, his voice thick with emotion, Alexander whispered, "Not if you don't want me to." She hugged him tightly, and in that embrace, the once grumpy millionaire discovered what wealth and power never gave him: love, belonging, and a reason to live. All because a little girl had the courage to ask a simple question, and in walking her to school, he finally found the path back to his own humanity. Do you want me to make this even shorter, 2 very brief paras, for something like a quick social media/story caption, or keep it longer for YouTube narration?